I use this thing called an Aura Ring, and it like tells you what your sleep quality is like. And I know even though I'm in bed for 8, I'm really only getting like
You mentioned like you like the feeling of being on testosterone, like the feeling you get, the high you get from it. Like, is there an exact cycle that you can remember that was like the prime, the optimal, like the best you made you feel? Maybe not the best you looked, but feeling wise, like because so many people are like they think that as soon as you're on steroids, you're obviously you feel like Superman and stuff. But some of the drugs like Tren, it makes you feel like shit. So it's not really worth it. Is there a cycle, dosage product that you felt was like, this is the banger, this is how I feel my best, I wish I could live my life like this?
um like one thing I can say that's interesting is Dianabol, a product not necessarily favored by everyone because of how watery it can make you if you use too much, or you just don't respond well or whatever. It does produce like a very unique euphoric feeling. It's like a sense of well-being. I don't know if it's the unique estrogen it produces through its like methyl estradiol, or how it interacts in like a certain way in the brain, but it definitely has like a feel good component. And I don't know if it's also because your bench goes up like 50 pounds in 6 weeks when you use it, and you
You
feel
don't
really good
mind
about
that?
that. Yeah, so that obviously helps too. But yeah, that compound in particular, I don't know if I'd want to live on it because what it does to my blood pressure and like
Yeah,
the water.
without that, I'm just talking about pure
Yeah,
feeling, regardless of like the blood work. Like, it could be the most dangerous thing in the world, but
Dianabol.
how do you feel? D-ball's the
Yeah,
best. And
yeah, for
what, well,
sure.
what dosage and how often would you have to administer that?
I don't think I've ever ran it like properly, to be honest. Because like for me, since the conception of my channel, I haven't like blasted. So for me, it's been all like any content I've made essentially is just like on TRT, or like little experiments of like different stuff for like hair loss prevention or like random chemicals and stuff. I've never done like a full like proper. I haven't used D-ball like since the before I knew how I would use it now properly. So like in the past, me saying how I use it is not how I do it now, but I used to use like 30 to 40 milligrams every single day, which,
At
you know,
once or split into
split
whatever?
into like 2 a day or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if I was going to do it, knowing its half life, it's liver toxicity, blah, 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 I would probably be doing it acutely around a workout window only on days I train. That would be probably how I'd use it. It would allow you to use it longer, actually leverage the effects when you need the performance, not when you're just at home doing nothing. The half life is so short that it's in and out of your system quite quickly, so you can leverage its effects on the bench press or in the squat or on the deadlift or whatever it is, and get it out of your system and get back to a healthier state where you're not like you would want to rely on probably like a more like a well tolerated, like safer compound for your actual like muscle growth, like your injectables ideally, rather than like an oral as like your main driver of muscle growth. So if I was going to do it now, I would probably do something like, I don't know, like a 20 to 30 milligram max, probably like 20 milligrams pre workout, like 2 to 3 days a week, maybe at the most. That would might be
Yeah.
how I would do it. Yeah.
Geez, I'd say my favorite was probably I did a cycle. I was training for a bench press contest, and I was doing 700 milligrams of test, nothing else or whatever with the Arimidex, and then I would just use Anavar before the gym, and that was it. And I was like, man, I felt good. Like it was just the strength was going up so much in comparison to other cycles where I was always using. I would always use Test and Tren and Masteron. It was just so much stuff, and the Halo. I always felt like shit. But just a lower cycle and eating enough calories, not being on a diet, because half the time I'm on my biggest cycles, I'm in a calorie deficit, so I'm not really able to kind of maximize the benefits of the cycle because I'm cutting. Because obviously,
Mhm.
when am I going to do the biggest cycle? When I'm preparing for a pro bodybuilding competition. So in the off season, I didn't need to. When I was worried about my health, so just like 700 milligrams with some Anavar in the off season when I'm eating, it felt so much better than your 6% body fat blast and everything.
Yeah, yeah, and you definitely certain orals like Anadrol, D-ball. If you use those every day, it kills your appetite. You're not gonna be able to grow. So Anavar definitely unique in that it's like the least liver toxic it seems of the orals.
If I average 7 hours sleep, I find that I'm doing really well. Like I don't need more than that. So between
Okay.
6, 7.5 hours, that's almost every day what I'm going to get. I would say excessively rare that I would sleep 8 hours.
Yeah, I was always curious how much you slept to maintain that
Do you
rigorous.
sleep more than that? 7 hours ish, I would say
I
average.
yeah, 7 is probably average, even though like I'd like to get 8, and I use this thing called an aura ring, and it like tells you what your sleep quality is like. And I know even though I'm in bed for 8, I'm really only getting like 7 to 7.5 at best. So it's almost like I feel like I'm like giving myself cancer when I'm in bed for 7, because it's like with this thing, it's like, well, you only slept for 6, you know? So I don't know, like I would like to dial that in a bit more, but at the same time, it's like it's just I don't know if it's sustainable to do like my work schedule and like do that too. Like I find my bare minimum is 7 where my mind still works well, and I don't necessarily think it works better at 8. So I'm kind of like 7 is like good.
I can tell you that I think today, because we started the video, like I woke up at 5:15 to do this like earlier for me. This is the first time I've set the alarm since the Cove. So in a year, I think the only time I set an alarm is when I have to go to the airport to travel. So I just sleep as long as I can every single day, and that's what happens. So like, there's no like waking up, like you're saying, you try to sleep 8. I sleep as long as I can sleep. That's what allows me. And that's good. So I'm sure I'm sleeping enough because I'm sleeping as much as I can handle. However, if I'm on trend and I slept 5 hours, that's a miracle night. So I often would sleep 2 and 5 hours a night was the average. And even when I was natural, 3 to 5 hours a night. When I was natural, I did 42 drug tested, whatever shows natural, no gear. I couldn't sleep. Even when I was natural, I couldn't sleep. It'd be like 4 a.m. I'm like, I may as well get up and do cardio. I can't, like, you just can't sleep. You're just hungry. And that's it. So sleep for me has been such a nightmare in contest prep. And everyone knows, like, if you follow Ali's channel, like Ali's on Instagram, every single day there's a picture of me asleep somewhere in the afternoon. Yeah. I have like narcolepsy, like just 1 point from having it like diagnosed type thing. Like the doctor's like, you don't want to have this diagnosis, you can't drive and stuff. So I'm like, okay, so but I can fall asleep anytime during the day, but yet I'm sleeping as much as I can during the night. Strange. I've used like modafinil during the daytime, which was great to help with like being awake and stuff. And I'd still eventually just fall asleep. If I take it too many days in a row, my body just kind of get used to it. And then it doesn't really work that well.
Did you ever get a sleep apnea test to see if the narcolepsy
I did that, and I had not many episodes during the night of problems. So I definitely didn't need the CPAP. It wasn't really that big of a problem. I don't have like the really thick neck. I'm not like the 230-pound bodybuilder type thing. So
I don't either though, but I have like severe sleep apnea.
Okay.
Really bad.
Yeah. So you have to sleep with a mask or?
Yeah, it's in my nose. I used to use the face one, but the nose one I've gotten used to. But yeah, like if I didn't use that, they said I would have had like a stroke by now, pretty much.
Jeez. Yeah. And so how many years have you had that problem?
Well,
your whole life?
Actually, I think it was like brought on by bodybuilding and exacerbated because I noticed it gets far more severe the more weight you gain. So the first like dirty bulk I did on gear, I got to like, I don't know, I went from like 190 or 200 to like 255 in like 8 to 10 weeks or something.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden I noticed in university classes, I was just like, I couldn't sit for more than 5 minutes without falling asleep. And it would get to the point where I was like, even if I was driving, I would start dozing off. If I was in class, I would doze off. At a club, literally with music blasting, I would be asleep at the table. And I went and got a sleep test done. I was having like hundreds of episodes, like every however long, and like not breathing for multiple minutes at a time and then gasping for air. And it was like, it was so severe that it was like, get on a CPAP like right now. And losing weight helps a lot when you're lean. The leaner you are, the less severe it will be, but it's still there to the point where I need it regardless of how lean I get. And I think a lot of bodybuilders don't, I think a lot of bodybuilders that die from cardiovascular complications don't realize it's like, yeah, it's the gear. Yeah, it's because you weigh a lot, but it's also because you've been going to war in your sleep every night, not breathing. Like you literally will like starve your brain of oxygen and your blood pressure will go through the roof and you'll gasp for air. And if you don't have a significant other to tell you that you're like dying pretty much in your sleep, you'd be like, hey, like, why are you not breathing? You don't even realize it. You just wake up and you're like, wow, I slept like shit. You know, must be the trend. Well, maybe it is.
Right.
But I mean, like, but you're also like, you just think your sleep quality is bad and you go around being tired all the time, but you don't realize you're actually like dying in your sleep every night. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. I mean, and you said you were 255. Is that the heaviest you've ever been? Because I did watch a video, you lost like 75 pounds. So
Oh,
were you a chubby kid? Were you lean? Like, what are your genetics like, because obviously you're in
my
good shape now.
my baseline genetics was 138-pound skinny rail at the same 1 inch shorter than I am now. So I was 6 feet tall when I started, 138 pounds, and then I got up to my heaviest maybe like 265, and it was not a good 265 though. It was like a really rough 265, and yeah, the sleep apnea was horrendous then, and that cut, lost 70 pounds or whatever it was. Yeah, that was like from my like most severe sleep apnea point of being a fat disaster down to like, close to single digits kind of thing.
And what do you weigh now?
I sit around like 215 to 220 pretty comfortably. I'd like to get lower though, personally. Like it's summer and I don't know, it's just
Is
would
your
be nice
body
to be
fat at
aware.
like say 15%, like a really healthy weight? Like you can't really tell. I've only seen you kind of in the upper body, but
Probably like 13 to 14, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's yeah, something like that. Like I have visible abs. They're not like sharp, but they're definitely like decent enough that they're visible without even really flexing them. So I don't know. That that some people would say that's 10. There's no way I'm 10, but I would imagine like 13, 14 or something.
yeah,
But
so it's quite
yeah.
healthy. So it's a good, I'd call it like a good gain weight, like 12 to
Yeah.
15%. It should be able to gain body fat. And what do you eat? Like, are you on a 3,000 calorie thing? Are you doing cardio every day? Are you getting in 20 minutes? Like what's your regimen in terms of, eating, training, diet, fitness in general?
So right now I think my calorie intake is 3,000 about, and I'm probably going to cut it down a little bit though, because I don't do as much cardio as I probably, um, as I should, to be honest. Like I go for a few 10-minute walks a day, and that's like pretty much it. Like I don't do any like sports really anymore. And
Well,
to be
20
honest,
minutes, 7 days a week, 140, it's almost at 150 minutes of, some moderate activity a week. If it's just a slow
yeah,
walk, like your grandma Josephine, maybe it's not quite what
yeah.
you want to brisk it, a little bit faster of a walk, but
To get to like single digit body fat percentage though, I feel like that's like not enough cardio to be ideal. Like I'm gonna have to definitely lean into the calorie deficit more aggressively, I feel like. Like I'm envious sort of the people that can eat over 3,000 calories and stay shredded, but at the same time I'm like, well, they're doing way more activity than I am. I have to I have to like actually remind myself to like go move after I eat, because it's like otherwise I just sit on my computer the entire time. Like I lift 4 days a week, and that's like an hour each session. And then other than that, I have to like remind myself to go like actively walk. So
arguably, I would say that your metabolism is faster than mine because I'm eating 3,500 if you average it out, and I'm averaging 800 calories a day in cardio. So take the 800 out, that puts me down to like 2,700 really, because I'm racing bicycles. So my opinion is you're like you're saying, I'm jealous. I wish I could eat more. And it's like, yeah, but to eat more, trust me, if I
yeah,
ate 3,000 like you, I would be miserable, like suffering. Like, I don't know if like maybe you're hungry on your diet and whatnot, but like when you get to a certain level, it's beyond like what your genetic predisposition, like maybe for you, 12 to 15% is that sweet spot where you feel amazing. You get down to 11, your body's going to send so many hunger signals. You're just going to be like, feel like shit. You're going to train hard. So for me, like I'm 9%, but it's not easy to be 9 because my body isn't made. If you see my parents, it's not like I have some kind of genetics to be shredded. It's not
yeah,
shitty, but it's certainly not like amazing. My
yeah.
mom's like 5 foot tall and 160 pounds type thing. It's not like, shredded family genetics or something, but by doing all that cardio, I'm able to burn off a lot of calories. But if I cut that out, I'd be eating less than you.